Shabba-da-dooba, shabba-da-cha. Scoop, scoop-ly-bop-boo, da-dooba-dooba-dooba-da. The personal is political. Welcome to Snake Oil, a podcast where the personal is political. We're your hosts, Juno
and Benzi, coming at you every other Thursday with radical vulnerability and authenticity.
To support the podcast, you can visit our Patreon page at snakeoilpodcast.com. There you can access exclusive bonus material
and other cool perks. You can also support the podcast for free by liking, commenting, or sharing.
Thank you for listening. So on this episode of Snake Oil, we are going to be talking about how and why we both became non-monogamous, and what our non-monogamy means and looks like. And then we're also going to be talking about a lot of the reasons why we started this podcast and what we want it to become.
Yeah, we actually have already recorded quite a few episodes, but we recently got our intro and outro pre-recorded and are deciding to repost all of our episodes and start reaching out to audio-only websites.
Podcasts, yeah. Or platforms.
Yeah, platforms, thank you.
Yeah.
So we decided that our first episode, which was all about a conference we had just thrown at the time, wasn't actually very accessible as a first episode. So this is quite a bit after we've started, but I still think it's important to have a solid first episode for people to watch.
That kind of explains where we're coming from. And I feel like non-monogamy is a huge part of our lives and a huge part of this podcast. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And specifically anti-monogamy, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, I think it's a huge part of our mission.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cool. So, okay, which do we want to talk about first, though? Our goals, the reasons why we created the podcast?
No, I think the anti-monogamy story, or the non-monogamy story, mm-hmm. is an introduction of who we are and our life up till now.
Okay. That sounds good.
I would like for you to start. I feel like you have a really solidified story.
Okay.
Yeah. I've heard it on 3 podcasts already. So.
I know, it's so extra. It's way too much, isn't it? I'm so tired of telling it. But no, okay. I could tell.
I just want to say something before you start. I was watching.
Why does your face look like you're gonna do something evil? I just want to say something.
I just don't want you to feel angry at me. Okay.
Oh God.
Not that I think you will.
Okay. What?
I was watching Hot Ones with Paul Rudd the other day.
Okay. And I don't know what that is, but okay.
That's the podcast where they eat hotter and hotter hot wings.
Oh, okay. I know what that is. Yeah.
And one of the questions he asked him is are there, when you get asked the same interview questions over and over, do you come up with quick, easy stories that you can just answer over and over that end up kind of being your story, even though it's obviously missing a lot of context and accuracy and stuff? And one thing that Paul Rudd is he used to listen to these comedy records at his parents' house, you know, and that listening to them inspired him to go into comedy. But he's I don't even know if that's what inspired me to go into it. It's just
oh, interesting. Okay.
That was my answer a few times, and then it just started to become my answer.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think about that with our non-monogamy stories, because not only have you sit on the podcast, but I've how many poly meetings have we gone to, or have I gone to at least, where I've said this exact same, the exact same sentences, the exact same story over and over and over again.
Yeah. And
I have no, that's just become my story, and even if there is more to it, it's lost in my mind. It's lost to time and space at this point.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's making me think about I don't know, little inklings of wanting to be non-monogamous that I had before my actual story starts, where I start talking about it. But yeah.
So the reason I brought that up is because I thought maybe it'd be cool for us to, in this time, since our stories have been heard so many times, to attempt to access things we don't usually say when we tell this story.
Okay.
Which you don't have to do.
I will. Yeah, I'll see if I can do that.
Okay.
While I'm telling you, because that might mean I have to think a long time about it. But
okay.
Yeah. That does make me think of something. So actually. But because usually when I tell the story, I say okay, I first decided to become non-monogamous when I was dating my last boyfriend who I lived with,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and that my main reason was because I didn't want to have my ability to be like intimate with women cut off just because I was in a relationship with this one guy. And so that like became really important to me. But prior to that, I had actually like entertained the idea of being non-monogamous in a sex only way with a guy who I had dated like several years before that.
Yeah.
And I just kind of I knew that like I really wanted to experience just like basically having sex with women because I hadn't up until that point. And so I just said to him like, well, what if we dated other people and like had sex with other people?
Yeah.
So I brought that up, but it was very much like gendered, like only women I was thinking about. And then his response to that was like, well, why don't we just break up then? You know? And I was like, oh. So I like felt very afraid to even go down that route.
Yeah.
Because it was definitely like stigmatized. So that was the first time I had even considered that. But then like later on in life, when some of my friends who identified as polyamorous were talking about polyamory, I was actually really against it. Like I thought that, I mean, I wasn't against them doing it, but I felt like there's no way that people can like have healthy relationships with people with like more than one person.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's just no way you could put enough of your like energy into so many people. And now that just sounds like ridiculous to me, because I still only put as much energy as I want to into whoever I'm with, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that my perspective was very like possessive, and I expected whoever I consider to be my partner to like, how do I put it? To invest like all of their energy and all of their expectations into me. And that felt like what love was.
Yeah.
You know? And so now I don't even feel like I need that at all in my life. But yeah, so how do I put it? Yeah, I was against it for a long time. And then like the only reason I feel like it came up again for me was because I just again like realized, okay, if this is my boyfriend, I'm never gonna get to like ever be intimate with women, and that's just like not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
And he was super receptive to that idea, and I feel like the only reason why is because like it was with women and not with men. And when I brought up the idea that I wanted to be intimate with men too, and like have whatever kind of relationships I want with men, he was completely against that and basically like created or like had a one penis policy.
Yeah.
For me. I feel like bored by my own story because I told it so many times.
That's why I'm.
It was like, aw. But I mean, that really is like, I can't think of any other differences.
That's okay. It was just something.
No, it's interesting to think about though. Yeah. So when he said that, I initially just kind of went with it because I didn't want to stress out our relationship. And then slowly over time, I just thought like, well, either he's okay with me being non-monogamous or he's not. Like, you can't. No, that's not.
My phone's on silent.
I was like, it doesn't make any sense to divide it by gender. Like, that's stupid. And I also felt like I shouldn't need his permission or his like consent for like who I can be intimate with. It's like, if you're saying you're okay with me being non-monogamous, then I'm non-monogamous. You know what I mean? I should be able to do whatever I want with other people. And also, at a certain point, I just felt like in general, I shouldn't need consent from one person to do anything with other people, so I don't need his permission to be non-monogamous at all.
Yeah.
And it really came down to me just being like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing, and
are you in or out?
if you can't handle it, you can't handle it. And he couldn't handle it, just to make a long story short, and so I broke up with him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not answering to you. Like, I really valued autonomy at that point. And I felt like my perspectives were really validated by like that first relationship anarchy meeting that I went to. And that's how I got into relationship anarchy too. is because, okay, so like no one else knows, I mean, people don't know this yet, but yeah, so I went to these like Metro Detroit polyamory meetings on specifically relationship anarchy, and I brought up a lot of my issues with like third party consent, like asking for consent from a partner to be non-monogamous in whatever way I want, and like it seemed like, at least at the time, Nicole was really pro that. I don't think you said much to me at that meeting, because it was like my first meeting, we didn't know each other. But Nicole, who was like leading the relationship anarchy discussion meetings at the time, was super like, yeah, that's ridiculous. You should not have to get consent from another person to do things with other people. Like, yep. And I was like, okay, yes, this makes sense. And so, yeah,
I think it's
my story.
So cool that your start in non-monogamy like all started with relationship anarchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't go through the years of like poly bullshit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which I think is a huge, cool advantage.
Yeah, I'm really glad that that's like the first discussion group I went to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I did, before I went to that, I did read the book More Than Two, which did give me a lot of like good information about like how jealousy is like a toxic, irrational emotion and that kind of thing. But yeah, I like that I started off with relationship anarchy.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't fully understand it at the time.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people who didn't know what it was and came to the meeting. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like I was one of those annoying people who was like, wait, what is this? Okay. I wonder if you all were just like, oh my god, at the time. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm sure you were one of the least annoying people.
I didn't know what anything was. I didn't even know what poly stuff was.
Yeah.
At that time. So yeah, do you want to tell your story?
So my like quick basic story that I always tell is that I've always like not really dealt with jealousy issues when it comes to relationships. And then in 10th grade, I saw the show Sister Wives and was like, holy shit, like, that's what I want. And then there was an episode of Sister Wives where they did an interview, and the wives were like, oh, no, we would never touch each other. That's weird. And I was like, okay, that's stupid, like, because being bisexual, like, I always wanted both, you know? And so I started telling everyone around me, I want polygamy, but not religion. Polygamy, but not religion. I told anyone who would listen, and then at some points, like, some people listened, and were also into it. So I was able to have some non-monogamous relationships sprinkled throughout monogamous relationships, because that's how most people are functioning. So I was always willing to, like, see if I could do it, you know? But, and then eventually I moved to Michigan and found the relationship anarchy community and have skyrocketed since then.
I really like that term, skyrocketed. Just like, that's just an interesting way to put it.
But some of the other things I've been thinking about, like, externally around this are my mom has been married multiple times, and I always saw her with boyfriends, and some of her relationships she would, like, bounce back in between the same people, you know, like, back and forth. And so it was very obvious to me that she was capable of loving more than one person at a time, you know, that there was never doubt when she switched from one person to another that she didn't still love the other person, you know? So I think that may have been, like, one of the first consistent examples I had of the one love thing being kind of bullshit. And then I did notice, and this is often part of my story too, when I did start dating, like, a lot of my friends were absolutely not okay with anyone dating their exes. And I never had that, like, ownership over someone I loved. If anything, I wanted to, like, find them a new girlfriend so they wouldn't be sad when we broke up or something, you know? And I remember doing, like, weird workarounds. Like, I had a friend who, her and her boyfriend broke up, and I had a huge crush on her boyfriend. So I hooked her up with my ex-boyfriend so then I could, like, mentally have permission to then go hook up with her.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about, like, other times I had a partner who, when I was younger and I told him I had 16 sexual partners, And he got really upset that he had only had 2 and said he could, like, never trust me and, like, wouldn't be able to marry me knowing I had so many more sexual partners than him. And so I was like, well, why don't you, like, go have sex with as many people as you can until our numbers match. And then we'll be okay. Like, I feel like in most situations I was always pretty comfortable with you might go hook up with other people, which made me really upset in some situations where I got cheated on because I was like, I was fine with you being with other people. I don't understand why it was, like, hidden or a lie or, you know, that I was very frustrated by that multiple times. And then most of my before RA happiest non-monogamous relationships were like more triad focused, which I noticed that was very easy and successful if I was with a girl first and then the 2 of us went and found a guy, rather than the being like a straight couple, like trying to go find another girl. Like, never worked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
interesting.
But being 2 girls dating and going to find a guy was extraordinarily
that's
easy.
Still, I guess that's still technically unicorn hunting, although I guess the guy isn't considered a unicorn.
Well, because they can be a straight guy. Because that isn't part of the unicorn hunting. You're looking for a bisexual girl who will like both people.
Who is a unicorn? That's why she's a unicorn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
but I'm wondering.
Yeah, I still think it has, like, a lot of the shitty aspects of unicorn hunting.
Yeah.
But it was tremendously easy to tell.
I'm sure.
Any guy. Both of us want to fuck you regularly.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah.
So. But, yeah, and then even on the person I live with and stuff, and he was my, like, first person that I got with after ending a very long monogamous relationship. Well, by very long, I mean 2 years, which...
That's long for me, too.
Yeah.
I've never been in a relationship longer than 2 years, personally.
And I was, like, very defensive after that monogamous relationship that I was, like, never gonna do that again. So on our first date, I was like, just so you know, I'm never gonna stop wanting to touch boobs. And Devin was like, okay.
In his voice. I can imagine him saying that. It's so funny. Like, okay. I'm not making fun of him, but I can just imagine him saying that.
It's okay.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, and so I had, like, even on myself decided, like, oh, I'd be willing to do a 1 penis policy at that time, you know? Like, I just could never, because it was a big problem in my monogamous relationship of me missing being intimate with women. So, and then getting in, like, big fights of me being, like, alone with attractive women and him. And it's like, am I not allowed to be alone with anyone? Because you think I'll cheat on you whether it's a guy or a girl, you know?
Yeah.
Which is very annoying. But, and another thing is I was, like, pretty against cheating, you know? Which now I'm pro-cheating, so congrats. I don't know why I said congrats. That was weird.
To yourself?
Oh,
I want to talk about that. Or you
yeah, I want to talk about that. But, so what I would do to kind of be, like, non-monogamous in my own way is I would date the same person, like, 8 or 9 times and just keep breaking up with them to go be with other people temporarily and then get back together with them. So I never cheated because we were broken up.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you were able to get back together with them.
Yeah, that was almost never an issue.
Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just finessed that whole situation.
Yeah.
All the time.
I was a master monogamist.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
God.
Yeah. Something just came to mind, too. That I remember with some people, like, I had this one friend who I also dated multiple times. We had made a pact with each other that, like, no matter when we got married or, like, how, like, anything, that we would always cheat with each other. And that was okay.
That's cool. I like that.
Because we just loved each other and we didn't want to be together permanently, but we always wanted to have access to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of beautiful, even though it relies on the concept of cheating and is
which at the time was my only framework.
Right.
So
yeah.
All right, go into it.
Well, I was gonna say I would say that I'm also not against cheating, and I think that like our perspective on like cheating is influenced by relationship anarchy. Philosophy, like one of the big ideas, like is that, like I've already said, we don't need consent from one person to do whatever we want with other people. So there is no concept of cheating in relationship anarchy. It's all based on our own autonomy over ourselves. So, but I mean, I guess I wanted to say why I'm not pro cheating, even though I'm against.
And I actually, I think I know what you're gonna say.
You do, but
and
you may not know.
Yeah, I know.
Oh. Wait, are you already responding to what I'm going to say though? Because I want to say it first to the people who
I
are.
want to respond.
They don't know. Let me say the argument that it could be a recorded conversation. So my perspective is like, okay, so fuck the concept of cheating. It shouldn't even be a thing. Like it shouldn't even exist because no one should be monogamous. And we can get into that in a minute, but. The reason I'm not pro-cheating is because I feel like cheating in some ways, like in I think like the popular way that it's perceived is that you're secretly oftentimes like having sex or like being emotionally intimate with people that that your partner doesn't know about. Mm-hmm. I don't like the way that still upholds the appearance of monogamy in our society and normalizes monogamy. Because the whole thing is that, like, no one's supposed to know that you're actually non-monogamous. Yeah. So I'm pro people having sex with multiple people and, like, violating any relationship rules that they've already made and breaking them and changing them. But just do it openly, I guess is my only thing that I care about. Like, show people that you're non-monogamous. So, yeah. That's why I can't say I'm pro-cheating. Because I feel like then it's like I'm upholding the appearance of monogamy in our society.
And I definitely agree with you on those points and care about them. And also the point of I'm really not into purposeful deceit in general. Because, like, I do think, like, being a con artist to someone is, like, harmful. And, but the reason I still like to use the term pro-cheating is because I feel like it's a disruptive term to monogamous people and even a lot of ethical polyamorous people, you know? Yeah. So I still find the term useful as a disruptor and a conversation starter.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I like that. It's a disruptor. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. I guess, my only thing about that is that I feel like then, like, the arguments that people always make about, like, cheating is, like, well, but they say the same thing, like, well, I'm against deception, like, I'm against lying. Yeah. And so I feel like I wish there were an easy way that was just as, like, iconic as saying pro-cheating, to say, like, but, like, let's not, like, purposefully lie to people, you know what I mean? Yeah,
and my hope is, I say pro-cheating, and they go, oh my god, and then...
Is that exactly how they...
Yeah. And then we have the conversation, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's my... hope.
I get it.
Yeah. But if it ends at me saying pro-cheating and them saying, like, then...
What are these noises?
Those are...
The monogamous people? That's how they always act.
That's how they always
They're always, like, having a little fit about everything.
That, even if, like, that's the end of it, them knowing that there's one person in the world who would outwardly say they're pro-cheating... to me is, like, still worthwhile. Mm. Okay. Yeah. So I hope the conversation happens, but even if it doesn't, because that was, like, too much for them to handle, like, good. Okay. Yeah.
Which is why I'm totally fine, like, what am I trying to say? Like, kind of riding the coattails of the people who say they're pro-cheating. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with you on this, but, like, when it comes up, then, that's what I like to say.
What I really care about is no third-party consent.
Right.
But if I say that to a monogamous person, they don't even know there's no...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Adverse reaction, because they have no clue what the fuck I'm talking about.
Because they don't even, I don't think they even perceive their relationships that way. Yeah. That, like, that's what it is that they're, signing on to, so... Yeah, you're right. Good point.
Thanks.
Kudos. But yeah, do you want to talk about just like being anti-monogamy?
Yeah, so I'm super into talking about the transition, which is a little different from me than you, just because I was polyamorous for so long, of going from non-monogamous to anti-monogamous.
Okay. Although I have a little bit of a transition too.
Oh,
but
cool.
No, you go first, and then I'll tell.
Okay.
I'll tell mine.
Well, I've already been talking for a while.
Okay, then I'll go next.
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, it has to do with, I want to say, like, when I'm saying anti-monogamy, that's, like, for me, basically synonymous with relationship anarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to relationship anarchy, but, because people are probably wondering, like, what the fuck is relationship anarchy? But yeah, so, a big part of relationship anarchy is being anti-monogamy. And so initially, yeah, I went to this like relationship anarchy meeting and I totally got a lot of things about my beliefs validated, but at a certain point I also felt like I didn't totally understand it. Like I didn't understand a lot of the I didn't understand why it needed a term and like why it was something that people would even identify themselves as. I just thought like it seemed like a lot of these people didn't have like really, how do I put it, very important like stable relationships. I was afraid at that time that I wouldn't have anyone who really cared about me. Yeah, that's what I couldn't imagine how that could be. Now I'm just like, ugh, that's like the total opposite. Like I have so many people who care about me and who I care about, and yeah, but so I kind of still went on. I'm like, okay, I'm non-monogamous, and maybe I'm like solo poly, you know. But I was like, I don't know what relationship anarchy is supposed to amount to. Like, why is it important?
Yeah.
And then actually, Nicole posted this thing on Facebook. It was like a bunch of screenshots of like Twitter, what am I trying to say? A Twitter feed?
Twitter conversation?
What is it? Okay, I didn't know there's a special term.
I don't think there is. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if there is, I don't know.
It was like a bunch of screenshots, and like it was basically like in short form, like all like the political reasons why this person was anti-monogamy and relationship anarchist, and a lot of it had to do with the way that like monogamism, like the system, like the dominant system of monogamy in our culture, basically it normalizes people isolating themselves into like couple units, and in a lot of ways like divorcing themselves from larger community structures.
Yeah.
And then also like it makes it, how do I put it? I feel like I'm gonna get all tongue-tied. How doing that and like basically like having your whole life revolve around like finding your like one true love, like your partner, and then like going through all the relationship escalator steps to like eventually marry them and like have kids with that one person, and just having your whole life be about like this one unit, supports in a lot of ways capitalism and kind of like our privatization of all of the resources in our lives, so that we don't have a concept of what it could be like to share resources with a large group of people, and to not just totally like invest like all of our time and all of our energy and all of our money into like one other person and maybe just like our kids. And so that in a lot of ways disempowers us like as a political force in our society, because we like can't imagine like what would it look like to be a collective who all like share values and are fighting to like survive in this system together, and like we would come together and have political solidarity and like do a lot of things that would totally go against like the way that our system is set up, like not just capitalism but also like I'd say I mean, I feel weird saying this, but like patriarchy. Because I think that it is very patriarchal, like the concept of the nuclear family, where primarily it's expected that like men will work and like pass their wealth on to their children, and there would be like this patrilineal cycle basically. And so I think that relationship anarchy disrupts that system. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot more to that. But when I read that, I was like, oh my god, okay, yes, now I get what relationship anarchy is, and I totally agree with this, and now I would say, like, I am relationship anarchist, or, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, it was I was coming to Nicole's meetings and for like over a year, and was into a lot of the separation from ethical polyamory, but still felt like, oh, well, we should just reclaim polyamory, kind of person. And I still cared a lot about labels like boyfriend, girlfriend type stuff. I wanted to label all my relationships. Because I kept saying this thing. God, I said it so many times for so long. Of like, I can't control that, like, some people give me butterflies and some people don't. And that's the difference between someone who's going to be my partner and someone who's going to be my friend. You know?
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
To talk about.
Which is like, I don't even care about anymore. Which is so weird because I cared about it so much. And I would say, like, there is this thing of Nicole was, like, too part of my life, and I heard her talk all the time, and I really appreciated her, and took in a lot of what she said. But when I met John at Beyond the Love, and he did that talk on why labels, because also I felt like a lot of Nicole was, like, on why we should be RA for society, like, why it's better for society if we're RA. And John made me see that it's better for me if I'm RA. He gave me, like, selfish reasons to let go of labels and to be RA. And that just clicked for me in a new way. And I felt like that was kind of the point where I got to. It was like everything Nicole had said before then made sense in a new way.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, she put all those building blocks there, and I just, like, couldn't see that there was a castle in front of me.
You know? How it was relevant to you.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the points that John made about why it is good for you selfishly?
So I remember during his labels talk specifically, and I was going through a thing with someone I considered a girlfriend at the time, of not, like, super feeling like hanging out with them really regularly, but I liked when we did hang out. So I had this question in my mind of, like, is she my girlfriend? Like, do we need to have a talk about whether or not she's my girlfriend, And then during John's talk, he was saying how when you have those labels and you're trying to uphold something, you'll, like, put up with way more shit than you would otherwise. Or that just your relationships are much less fluid because there's something attached to the label no matter what you say,
Yeah, like expectations, that you feel like you have to fulfill.
Yeah. And he was talking about this thing where they did a study where they, like, asked a bunch of people in a neighborhood to put up a little, like, sign, like, this big in their front yard that supported some cause, some, like, eco cause, and then they then in two neighborhoods, in one, like, all the people who had been willing to put the eco card up, they asked to put a big banner in their front yard. And that the people who had already put a tiny card in their front yard were 70% more likely to be willing to put a giant banner that, like, looked horrible on their house,
Yeah.
And that people who had not taken the first step of the card were not willing. Like,
I
almost
understand
no
what
one
you're
was
saying.
willing to put the banner up.
I feel like that's really flawed, that study, but I understand the point you're making, but to me that study just sounds ridiculous.
And I might not be like describing it completely correctly, but
I already want to argue about the study itself,
yeah,
but I'm not going to do that.
Don't argue with me about it.
I'm not going to do it. I'm like,
yeah.
What? Okay.
I'm remembering this third hand, like.
But I understand the point that you're making.
And it really did make me see that these, like, weird seeds of investment were causing me to do things I didn't actually want to do and have less fluid actions. So.
Yeah, because I feel like, I feel the same way, maybe that's not obvious, but I feel the same way. But yeah, I feel like, because the way that I feel about people is going to change, and that's true of, like, anyone.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're so attached, like, this person is this in my life, and they have this status, you just feel like, well, if I change at all, then that's going to ruin the whole thing. And then we have to have a talk about it. And it's like, maybe people just change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe relationships just change. You don't need to, like, label it every step of the way.
Well, and also they go in and out. Like, relationships come in waves sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my like relationship with Kara recently,
Mm.
I was feeling when I met Kara, and had like barely known them for very long, I felt extraordinary NRE with them, you know, and asked them to move in and was like, yes, our life is going to be perfect, you know? And then Kara didn't even do anything wrong, but living with them made me not want to be around them. Like, I didn't make any one-on-one plans with them anymore. And even when I saw they were at an event, I kind of was like, oh, Kara's going to be there. And then once I was around them, I enjoyed being around her, for sure. But then it was like the moment Kara moved out, now like I'm being like flooded with positive emotion again, and
That's so interesting.
a desire to be around her. Yeah, and like we had a great time one-on-one last night, and there's like lots of situations where I like kind of like not just moving in with someone, but my feelings like fade for a little bit, but then they rush back. And that can happen over and over again throughout life.
That's really normal.
Yeah, and I think that is what causes people to cheat. You know, they're in like a long relationship that they don't want to give up, but they're in a, you know, like a low wave part of it.
Yeah.
And you know, if you got caught cheating, you don't ever get to have the rush again. You don't ever get to have the high points. But if you quit caring about that shit, you can just be in different points of the wave with like all these people around you and just like a foam of love.
Oh my god, that's just a really cute term. A foam of love.
Yeah.
That's got to go on some merch or something at some point. I just think it's really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, so I'm so thankful for my change in mindset. I don't think that hit why I'm anti-monogamy or anti-monogamism, which is a lot of it has to do with isolation and capitalism and wanting people to live their best life, and I no longer believe it's possible to do that with one person. I think that's so harmful to you, to the other person, to the people around you who lose you as you isolate as a couple.
To your kids who you fight in front of all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're like with the same person, you end up hating each other.
And then you inspire your children to become monogamous.
Yeah.
And also something too that's really important to me. I've been in lots of abusive relationships, including with my mother, and I think, and I just see how having this like large community of people who are accountable to each other, like I feel like if I even started to do something that was really harmful, that people would say like, what are you doing? You know? I don't think I could get away with abusing someone even if I wanted to.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of community critique.
Yeah.
I mean, by me too.
And I hope so.
Yeah. Like, oh, I need to talk to you. Yeah.
And even like little things, like when I'm feeling resentful at someone, I get feedback of like, well, why did you set yourself up to feel that way? You know?
Like, analyzing our expectations.
Yeah, when you're alone in isolation and monogamy, it's so easy to be like, it's your fault I'm feeling this way, you know? And that's accepted, and it's just like part of the relationship, it's part of the discussion. And now it's not, you know? It's like so much reflection, which is so valuable to me, and I think is so valuable to children, to, like, the more adults looking after them, the less capable one person should be to molest them or beat them, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more community accountability for how children are treated.
Yeah.
In structures like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I want that so bad.
Me too. I want to just give it to my younger self.
Right? I mean, same. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are a lot of the reasons I care about anti-monogamy.
for me, like, that plays into, like, I mean, I hope it's okay to kind of transition into this, like, why I wanted to do this podcast. I mean, it's really related to, like, everything that we've talked about. Like, I feel like the political side of relationship anarchy, like, knowing that there are these systems like monogamism, like the cultural enforcement of monogamy, that make people feel like they don't, or make people, like, they don't realize what options they have, like, all the different ways that they could structure their relationships and live their lives. Knowing that, like, makes me want to be part of, like, showing people different possibilities. And that is a reason why I want to, like, talk about that kind of stuff on this podcast. And a lot of different ways that we live our lives that are different from other people.
Yeah. And it is something I want to give as a gift to many youth, is realizing that the consequences for not following the rules are not what you think they are. You know, like, I have realized in retrospect, like, how many more rules I could have broken, and could have done, like, so much more that I cared about and still be okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And a huge reason I wanted to create this podcast is, I think, what we do in our meetings and, like, reaching new people, like, I've seen it change people's lives drastically. It changed mine drastically.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool in Detroit, and there's people outside who call us, like, the Detroit RA, you know, and are, like, freaked out by us, which is awesome. Yeah. But I don't want that to be a niche little thing here. I want everyone to have this autonomy, you know? I want the world to experience no third-party consent, you know? So, I have hope of this information reaching more people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I feel like, like, definitely related to relationships, like, that information specifically, like, regarding RA, but also I think just in general, like, encouraging people to examine, like, everything in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, just so many things, like, ways that we think and ways that we live our lives that people take for granted, and just, like, being critical and, like, being critical of, like, systems and, like, politics and the way that, like, everything that we do in our lives is political, and has something to do with, like, power dynamics and, like either you're supporting norms or you're dissenting from norms, and, like, what kind of thing are you going to choose to do? Like, how are you, what politics are you supporting in your life? And what are you promoting to other people in the way that you live your life? And like, knowing what your values are and how to live those things. Like, that's a lot of the stuff that is, like, what makes up the content of this podcast, I think, in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And also another hope I have for this podcast, which comes out from episodes we've already recorded, is I really feel like, and I'm a little worried sounding conceited saying this, but the relationship and communication modeling that you and I do together as we discuss, like, difficulties we have with each other, I think is really powerful.
I do too.
I really want to be witnessed in that space, you know, even though it's hard and, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, like, we disagree on a lot of things, and that is captured in some of the episodes. So you definitely are witnessing some, like, challenges that we have, and the ways that I think we grow from those, and, like, ways that we're utilizing, like, really valuable communication tools.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's important to witness too, because, like, we do have a really intimate relationship. I don't know why I said that. It's such a weird relationship. What the fuck? We relate in lots of intimate ways often. I want to continue relating intimately. I feel like I don't want to state it as, like, a blanket thing, but like, yeah, and I think that it's good for people to witness, like, hey, you can, like, really care about someone and be really intimate with them and have, like, totally healthy, like, generative conflict.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I think
I love it.
Yeah, I like processing a lot of our relationship stuff that's, like, embedded in a lot of the social and cultural stuff that we talk about, because how could that stuff not relate to us? So
yeah, and I love how I think this has happened to both of us on. For me, a big one was our gender episode that's going to be coming up. And during the episode, I didn't change my mind, but like I thought about those things afterwards and have changed like my mind on quite a few things about gender and sex. I want to actually specifically say and sex as a identifier.
As a category?
Yeah.
Not the act of sex.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited that these conversations are like literally like growth explosions, you know?
Yeah.
It's very exciting for me.
I like that term, growth explosions, too. There's a lot of good terms that you're putting out. Love, what was the other one? Foam of love?
Love foam?
It was foam of love.
Foam of love.
And growth explosions, which I love. Like, seriously, I'm really into it. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. I'm into it. It's fun. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I definitely hope that people are interested and keep watching, and
Me too.
I love the act of creating this, and if not even one more episode ever gets made, I feel like,
oh god,
I mean, I hope many more get made, but I still feel value in what's already happened.
I do too. Yeah, it's changed me in a lot of ways. Like, the process has been really valuable to me.
Yeah.
And like specifically doing it with you, like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, definitely, obviously, wouldn't have the same results with a different person, but like, yeah, you're a great person to do this with, and I'm glad that you encouraged me to do it.
Yeah.
Even though I think it was my initial idea to do a podcast, but I'm glad that you encouraged me to actually like do it, and like we're excited about it and did all the work for it.
Yeah.
You already do think it wasn't my idea?
Well, just because I've started podcasts with a few people, and it just hasn't worked out.
Okay.
I think it might have been partly mine.
It was both our ideas. It was our idea,
but it's okay.
It was. Well,
yeah. So,
no.
No, it's fine.
I don't know. Do we have anything else to say during this specific episode?
I don't know. I feel like this is a really good note to end on because I'm just feeling so...
Me too.
Good. I feel great. Amazing.
Yeah, I feel really good about this. For sure.
Yeah. What episode are you most excited for people to come up on?
To come up on?
Yeah, like of the ones we've already recorded.
Oh, oh god. I mean, for sure, the gender one is a really fun one. That's really valuable to me. We've done a lot of them. I'm super I like feel okay. That's a different topic, but I almost like embarrassed about people seeing the one on skepticism versus like the supernatural, because I feel like we both did things that are like not our best selves.
Yeah.
And then everyone's gonna see that, and now I've like I would totally do things differently now, so that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties I've had with how slow we've been to release episodes, is I already like disagree with a lot of stuff that I've said throughout the podcast, you know?
Okay.
And I feel like if I stopped those from going up, like nothing would ever happen.
Yeah, we can't know.
Because every time we record a podcast afterwards, I'm like, oh, I wish I said this different or something like that. So
yeah.
So I hope people keep that in mind throughout the podcast, that we are constantly like growing and changing our minds, and nothing I say is carved in stone for me. Yeah. And you should have that in your mind whenever you listen to anyone's media. Yeah. Like, I kind of hate the way that people... Thank you for saying that. Yeah, like, in general, audiences, a lot of times, they'll just throw a fit if someone, like, changes their mind about something, or, like, they discover something that someone said years ago. Yeah. And it's like, oh my god, so we have to punish you now for that. And it's it's like, I'm not the same person even remotely as I was years ago. Yeah. So, that's just I don't even know if I'm the same person I was 10 minutes ago. I mean, yeah. I really liked that thing I found. I think Evan posted it, and then I shared it. Yeah. And it was like, there is no, like, existing self. Like, you are always becoming. Yeah. And, that, like, really resonated with me, especially in my my journey through like consciousness and psychedelics and
meditation.
And, yeah,
I mean, for me, meditation.
Yeah, I meditate too.
Yeah. Well, I know you do. I'm the only one who meditates. No, yeah, I think both of our journeys with psychedelics, consciousness meditation. Yeah, and like Sam Harris.
I just loved that episode the other day where he's like, okay, let's just do a 5-minute meditation in the middle of this podcast.
I gotta listen to that.
Yeah. And
in his like very sobering voice. Like,
yeah, it made me. I'm not a fan of guided meditation usually, and then the only time I've ever enjoyed it is Nicole did a guided meditation at her house one time during the explosive visioning, and which I love.
Wait, what is that? What was that?
That was my explosion of visioning.
Oh, that was so cute. Coming out of my head. It was like antlers. Like you're a deer.
But I'm really excited that you're coming to the next one.
I am. Yeah, I'm excited for it too.
And I really enjoyed it because it was Nicole doing it. There was something about like I trusted her and I didn't feel like she was doing it for money. And I just felt like she cared about all of us in that room that she was guiding. I don't know. It was like it was a different experience than any other guided meditation I've ever done.
That's really cool.
And when I was listening to Sam Harris do that guided meditation for Richard Dawkins, I felt really close to Sam Harris, and it made me I immediately downloaded his meditation app.
Oh, cool.
Which I haven't used yet, but it was like, I got a lot of those same feelings from Sam Harris that I got. And I know Sam Harris doesn't care about me as an individual, but I really like some things he does, like all his exclusive paid content you can get for free if you tell him that you can't afford it, you know? And I do just get like a sense of him doing what he does because he like cares about knowledge and cares about humans having access to it, and not. I mean, I'm sure he like cares about making enough money. Obviously, he's not like poor, you know. But I just got this really strong sense of care and love from Sam Harris, and it made me think like maybe I would attempt some of his guided meditation.
I like that. Yeah, Sam Harris.
I'm a fan.
Let's end on that note. How much we like Sam Harris. Yeah. That's it.
Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more from us, subscribe. You can also support the podcast by visiting our Patreon at snakeoilpodcast.com.
We love connecting with our listeners, so we've also set up a P.O. box where you can send us anything that you would like. And the address for that is P.O. Box 1436, Warren, Michigan 48090.
You can also support the podcast for free by liking, commenting, or sharing. We both also have solo projects. I can be found anywhere on social media under @BenziNow. And then I also have a solo YouTube channel called Benzitheseus.
And I also have a solo podcast called Bedroom Eyes, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Podbean. And you can follow me on Twitter @JunoMariah.
I'll have all those links down below. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Shabba-da-dooba, shabba-da-cha. Scoop, scoop, leap, bop, boo, da dooba, 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 da.